my favorite piece, for what it's worth, in White Girls is the concluding piece. It will soon be here.
Mhm.
I have to say that I still struggle with understanding what it is and also here. So 2 out of the 6 words, 5 words in the title baffle me in the most generative
Oh,
way.
it's a reference to a painting, and the painting is a visual metaphor that Truman Capote was going to use when he was going to write a report on the Rolling Stones on tour. And he said it was a painting of farm families gathering against the storm.
Wow.
And so I was just borrowing it. I was sort of writing for Truman a little bit, the piece that he couldn't finish.
Wow. Okay, I'm edified. That's
Yeah.
great. I said yesterday that I felt that the wall, and folks are about to hear it because I'm going to ask you to read the first couple of paragraphs, but the idea of the wall, which surrounds memory, keeps us from the traumatic X we can't say, the unspeakable. It keeps us hunkered down. It's a very generative metaphor.
Yeah.
And I think I said yesterday that I felt that the person who wrote that piece was a survivor, or at least understands how survivors speak and write.
Mhm.
And I guess that's all I'm going to say before asking you to read it, but maybe you want to say something before you read the couple paragraphs about that wall.
I think the wall is resistance, and it is the wall that we put up to separate us from experience, especially if it's painful.
And how great at the end, which we won't read, where you decide to write your name, or you imagine writing one's name on the wall.
Yes.
Which is, I keep thinking about Baldwin's Nobody Knows My Name, that collection of essays, which includes contemplations indirectly and directly about his father, his hatred of his father, and also feeling unnamed and unnameable. And you talked yesterday about
And
that,
longing to be loved by his father.
and longing to be loved by his father, and having some ongoing relationship with his father's version of religion. And you talked yesterday about not being able to name your father. So this is a big issue, and you're dealing with it directly and beautifully in this piece. It will soon be here.
Thank
So
you.
would you mind reading the first couple paragraphs?
I don't mind at all.
Okay.
Anything for you, Al.
Oh, thank you.
The wall surrounding memory, this piece is called It Will Soon Be Here. The wall surrounding memory, misremembered, is clean and wide and high, similar in effect to the wall one finds in certain airports in other countries. Clean and wide and high like that, banking in or letting go those who want to remember clearly or don't. Passengers coming or going in the field of memory are a tangle of arms and legs, hands, hearts, hair, and minds that, if you do not stand too close or listen too carefully, speak a shared language. Remarkable in its oppressive loneliness, its denial. What a horrible memory, and so forth. Regardless of where many of us believe we land, in that field encumbered by not too much baggage or entirely too much, we all come from the same place, which is a road rutted by experience, so banal, nearly remarkable, that the memory tricks us into remembrance of it again and again, as if experience alone were not enough. What are we to do with such a life, one in which we are not left alone to events, love, shopping, and so forth, but to the holocaust of feeling that memory, misremembered or not, imposes on us? Against that wall, which is clean and wide and high, we fall disastrously at times, when we can no longer be quite the fascist-minded custodians of our own past that we'd like to be, as in, I don't remember, I can't, and so forth. In censoring our past, we censor ourselves. a not remarkable observation, nor is the idea that the will to censorship begins like some weird music in the home, heard most acutely by the children or the queer children someone's mother must have loved most. Not remembering or misremembering one's childhood is a way of allowing oneself the notion that the past does not exist, that it was not lived through in quite that way, that somehow it did not make one different than the rest, as in, I was the one in hellish bliss wearing my mother's garters behind the closed door, not being a boy, or I was in my childhood bed with her and our legs were entwined, and young ladies are supposed to keep their legs away from one another and closed, and so forth.
Thank you.
Thank
The
you.
Holocaust of feeling. Can you help me and us with that question? What are we to do with such a life, one in which we are not left alone to events, love, shopping, and so forth, but to the Holocaust of feeling that memory, misremembered or not, imposes on us?
Yes. I think I'm talking about destruction and about the ways in which we try to avoid this great wave of consciousness that sweeps in on us when we remember. And if we remember, then we have to be responsible for our part in the memory of the story. And I think that if you try to control it, I think, and repress, repression can only lead to eruptions of feeling that are chaotic. And so what I'm talking about is how we often feel that memory is a chaotic enterprise that needs to be controlled when in fact it's the thing that makes us. It's that wonderful line in Long Day's Journey into Night when the husband, Tyrone, James Tyrone, says to Mary, his wife, "Can't you forget the past?" And she says, "Why? It's the present and the future too."
Mm. So that destruction is somewhat necessary, the Holocaust of feeling, and it's regardless of whether the memory is misremembered or accurately remembered. Hilton, this converges remembering, accurately remembering, and misremembering. It puts that all on one side.
Yes.
It's an amazing passage. Are we allowed to interpret it will soon be here separate from Truman's, the nod to
Yes,
Truman?
yes. I just like the story of the painting. I like the title.
Your readers can do nothing but think about it otherwise, unless they're really deep inside the Truman reference.
Yes.
And I just love that. I don't know what to do with it, but I love it. It will soon be here is almost a therapeutic statement. Like,
yes, and it's right, exactly, that you're getting to the that memory is something that is can be viewed as an assault, that it's something that you're powerless against.
Right. Whether we are wrestling with the traumas of the past that produce horrible memories or not, we are reading this as the coda to this book. And I love this as a coda. It will soon be here. Like, you're reading the end of this book, but there's a here here. The words on the page, not ephemeral, but permanent. It's a book published by Penguin. It'll be in print forever, let's hope. And we're always going to be here. We're always going to be here when we encounter that it will soon be here. You're doing some therapy on behalf of us, I think, in a way.